Hi everybody, Apprentice Alex here, and today I want to talk about sword fighting. Specifically, I want to talk about 3 modern-day combat sports or martial arts that are working to revive European swordsmanship and combat. Each of these games are really cool in their own right, and this video is full of love for all of them. I've seen a few articles and videos going around that have a real whiff of my foo is superior to your foo mentality about them, and I don't think that's the right way to go about this. Because I think that there's things to learn from all of these games, and I think that there's so much opportunity for cross-pollination and cross-training, and I really want to try to foster more of that. Full disclosure, of the 3 we're going to talk about, I am most active with SCA Heavy List. So if my personal bias comes through, I apologize. And I'd love to talk to you if you think that I missed something important about one of the ones that I'm slightly less knowledgeable about. Anyway, the 3 games in question are the aforementioned SCA Heavy List, Hema. Specifically, we're going to be focusing on their rules variant, and forgive me if I butcher this term, Harnesfechten, which is their armored form, and Buhurt, which is a catch-all term for a variety of organizations doing kind of as close as possible to no holds barred, full armor, full contact steel fighting. Anyway, let's go into some quick definitions, and then we'll get into some video and start talking about the rules of each. And then we'll finish this all up by me talking about each and what I think some of the differences are and like the coolest thing about each. You know, keep things positive. Anyway, SCA Heavy List, Society for Creative Anachronism, is a historical recreation organization that dates back to the 60s. Our fighting form, Heavy List Combat, is it is a form of rattan stick fighting with armor. We might not use steel weapons like the other forms, but we hit very hard. I have a nice bruise on my bicep there from this past weekend to prove that. And it's it's one good blow, and it has to be good, is kind of where it comes at. Hema, or Historical European Martial Arts, is a sport really centered around reviving specifically the period swordsmanship manuals. They are essentially a fencing form that really prioritize that, excuse me, throat's a little dry. Really focus on going really to the manuals and looking at the specific techniques that were utilized in period. And like I mentioned, Buhurt, catch-all term for a number of organizations like the IMCF, International Medieval Combat Federation, HMB, Historical Medieval Battles, ACS, Armored Combat Sports, BOTAN, Battle of the Nations. All of these organizations run slight variants on these rules of extremely high contact, high aggression, steel fighting, using, again, steel weapons. So why don't we take a look at some videos, and I'll dig in a little closer to each, and I can try to point some things out. So here we see some example of SCA Heavy List. I'm in the gray in this one. My opponent is the wonderful Sir Beatrix. She's a righteous badass. We're fighting longsword. Because longsword is my favorite form, I've chosen to focus on longsword in this. A little bit about the rules of Heavy List. We have a minimum amount of kit that we have to wear, and then after that you can customize as you see fit. Usually to your persona, because we do historical recreation. There is a little bit of a LARP element to SCA. There's some people who don't like that term being attached to us, but it's an accurate one. When we fight, we fight to the telling blow. Now, the telling blow is a minimum threshold of force, and it is on the person receiving the hit to acknowledge that that was a good hit. There is a strong emphasis on honor in our system. This is me in my current kit now with the chainmail. Some wonderful opponents that rolled through here. It's my boss lady, Tomo. So occasionally when you go through these videos, you'll see some talking going on. That's trying to figure out if that was a good hit or not, because there are borderline times, and everybody, for the most part, tries their best to make sure that they act honorably and responsibly. So one of the things about the way our rules form works is we really emphasize shot mechanics. And what I mean by that is the ability to generate force from a given angle, because if it's not going to count if it's not a really strong hit. Again, I refer to the bruise that I showed earlier as an example of that. As far as alternative contact goes, we allow the grasping of the handles of weapons, provided they don't have a basket hilt, but we do not allow interpersonal grappling, throwing, etc. We do allow thrusts, provided you put a thrusting tip on your weapon. It is the only padding on our weapon. Other than that, it is just rattan wrapped in strapping tape and duct tape. Functionally, we're hitting each other with baseball bats. Although many people do make an effort to try to make them balance more appropriately. We also allow mixed forms, as you'll see here. I'm using a Greatsword, and I'm facing off against a polearm. Previous opponents might have wielded shields. Here's some Greatsword versus Greatsword. There are tournaments that require specific forms, and there are tournaments that exclude certain forms. But one of the things that I think is really cool is, more so than some of these other sports, we mix the forms up. I hope you've gotten a decent understanding about the rules of Heavy List, and when I do the closing video, I'll get into a little bit more of what I think I'll go into a little bit more of what I think the real strength of the game is, and also some of the weaknesses as a sport. But anyway, that's an introduction to SCA Heavy List. Now we come to Hema. Like I said, specifically Harness Fechten, which is their armored form. Hema stands for Historical European Martial Arts. They, as I mentioned earlier, really focus on reviving the period manuals. It is, at its root, a form of fencing. You can see these gentlemen using some very nice half-sorting techniques here, aiming for gaps in the armor. I've talked with some Hema practitioners, and my understanding of the rules, this is the one I'm least familiar with, admittedly, my understanding of the rules is that for Hema, you must land a clean blow with intent as judged by the judge, and when they say with intent, it's not a minimum threshold of force. Instead, it is you have to clearly intend for that blow to land. Like, you can't accidentally hit somebody with your blade. They allow thrusting, and now we're on to Buhurt, and I'll go back to Hema a little bit more, trying to give some commentary as we go with the videos that I have. Buhurt is full contact, although they do not allow thrusting because they don't like putting thrusting tips on their weapons, and they are a points game in their duels formats. What I mean by points game, there are judges watching for edge-on contact with blades, and the battle continues on until basically a timer goes off or a number of blows are struck. They are in full armor, and they are They, depending on their form, they are allowed punches, they are allowed kicks, they are allowed grappling, and they are brutally athletic. Their average kit is, I want to say it's around 60 or so pounds. I might be off there. Once again, we see a longsword duel. And here we see some greatsword duels with a giant two-handed falchion and an executioner's sword. These guys are extremely athletic, extremely strong. If you watch a bunch of this stuff, you'll see punches, you'll see kicks, you'll see throws. It is kind of unequivocally the closest you can get to actual armored combat. And I might be wrong about it here, but I believe the original Buhurt rule sets were based on period tournament rules. All right, so now we've seen a little bit of each, and first off, I want to give a huge thank you to the Knights Hall for providing the footage of Buhurt. And the Company of the Lynx Argent for providing the Hema Harness Fechten footage. Now let's get into all these sports. Again, it's so cool that we've got 3 different groups, with different approaches to revitalizing these ancient combat forms. And each one is different, and each one is awesome. And with the SCA, our force generation, I think, is one of our coolest elements. Because we have that minimum threshold of force for a telling blow that isn't present in the other sports. That's something that the other sports can learn. Hema puts almost no emphasis on force, but I think learning about the body mechanics to generate that force could be beneficial to understanding more of these techniques that they're so wonderfully showing off, and their the proper killing blows and all that. Hema, your adherence to these period manuals and this wonderful visual demonstration of these period techniques is phenomenal. I know that during lockdown, when I couldn't go out and actually fight in person, I watched Hema tutorials and I read up on Myers, which is one of the sword manuals. And what I learned absolutely translated right in and helped me grow as a fighter even when I couldn't actively participate in the fighting. Buhurt, your athleticism, your physical strength and endurance. It's like a combination of powerlifting and marathon running. It's phenomenal. All of them. And I think that the Buhurt guys could go and learn from the SCA, learn about force generation, and how to take a much lighter weapon and put down an opponent faster in a melee with SCA techniques. The Hema stuff can translate beautifully into your technique for takedowns. Obviously, the thrusting, not going to be part of it, but there's absolutely things that you could learn. Hema, or from the SCA standpoint, we could all use the physicality and the endurance gained by the steel fighting. Same with Hema. The Hema techniques, there's things that we can learn from each other, and that was really the point of this video. On top of that, I really hope that anybody watching this who doesn't have a lot of familiarity with these games now has a decent idea of what to expect from each. And, maybe you watch this and you go, maybe I should Google Hemage in my area. I did a little Olympic fencing back in college and it was fun, but I want something a little bit more, historical knights, longsword type stuff. Maybe you see this and go, oh wow, Buhurt looks intense. I want to go and punch somebody in steel while wearing steel gauntlets. Maybe you watch SCA and go, Oh wow, that's cool. I really like that like perfect kill mentality. It's they're all amazing. And I've been very active in the SCA for a few years now. And I've been very active in the SCA for a few years now. I have dabbled in Buhurt. I've sparred a couple of times. And it's the physicality. It's amazing. And the Hema stuff. I've never tried Hema for myself, and I'd really love to. And I'm up in New Hampshire. If anybody who watches this video is part of a Hema group in the area, let me know. I'd love to come down and try your sport out, and maybe I can get you to come up to a fighter practice, try SCA out. It's all awesome. I love that these sports exist. They have been so good for me, for my mental state, to give me something to work towards. And I really hope that in the future we can all work together to further all of our martial arts. So again, thank you for watching. And if you're completely unfamiliar with any of these, all of them are awesome. And every community has its bad eggs, but all of them have really cool people in them too. And I'm sure that if you think that this might be something for you, you can find your place in them. And maybe doing all three will be something that you'll enjoy. Maybe one, maybe two of them, maybe just one of them. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, have a good night, and I'll see you all next time. Hi everybody, Apprentice Alex here, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in learning more about the details involved in the craft of bladesmithing, please check out our main channel at youtube.com/oldworldironworks. My teacher Bear already has a couple of great tutorial videos up there, which are a little older, but more is on the way. If you're interested in supporting the shop, then of course, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share the videos around. You can find us on our web store at oldworldironworks.net, or you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/oldworldironworks. Again, means the world to us. Thank you so much. Links in the description below.